We've got the wonderful Leigh Hart here. Thanks, Leigh, for jumping on board and having a chat.
If I can say, mate, that any technical issues will be at my end, not yours, because that's the story of my life. I tell you, I hate this kind of technology stuff.
That's very kind of you. Hey, look, we were just talking. Let's just go back to the process of. We can just recap because there'll be people that will be just tuning in now about how you go about doing your comedy. You were saying that you sort of have a beginning and an end, but basically there's all sorts of stuff that could actually happen in the middle.
Yeah, I think you need to have an idea where you're going with it. You can just talk rubbish and you can end up where it goes. That could be fun too, but especially if you're filming something, I like having an idea of where you want to get to. In other words, does it escalate? Does it end up in an argument? So you can sort of a trajectory with it. But what people actually say within that, can be up to them. I don't like to script people in that sense, but more of a case, okay, let's get a bit faster on this and let's get to this point quicker, and then this happens. But whatever happens before that is great for me too, because I don't know what's going to happen either. So it's a bit of both, a combination of having an overall view on the tone, I suppose, more than anything, with the vibe of it. The odd line, not that I like punchlines that much, but other than that, I think people can do their own stuff and just see what happens.
Are you a perfectionist? Like, will you do a bit and go like, okay, let's do that again? Like, how many times or will you just go, hey, look, we've done this. It's kind of, it's probably our best take. Let's maybe get another one in the can, or do you just keep going?
Yep. I think I am a bit. I won't keep going in the sense like I won't flog a dead horse, but I think, especially with TV, if we're going in that road at the moment, is I like doing something that feels really good. Without giving too much away, and this is all classic stuff, I like filming something in a wide shot with the two people in it. Say if it was two people having a conversation. And then once you've done that, you go, that was really good. That bit he said is really good. Or that bit she said is really good. And then you can go back into it and maybe expand on those bits if you want.
Yes.
But you might find the wide shot was the best and it works good like that and just leave it. I'm a kind of perfectionist more in the sense could all, but on it. I wouldn't put it out anyway. Just because we spent a lot of time or we even scripted it and we made a lot of effort, it doesn't work. Don't worry about it. You might want to do something in 10 seconds that you just make up that works. And that's and often I think guilty of, oh shit, we have a big budget for this, we spend a lot of time on it and it's shit. Don't worry about it, just don't do it.
Yeah. So clearly I would imagine that you are, of course you do your own editing, but do you actually physically do the editing yourself, or do you always have someone else, on the buttons, or have you learned how to do that over time, or when it comes to video? Oh, bugger. Are we going to lose
a bit?
Yes, I can. You're freezing a bit, but we'll try. Yes.
You've lost your audio again.
No,
but I think I've got an editor who I work with all the time since the start of sports days. And I like sitting in on edits, especially for the timing and this sort of stuff, or even go,
yes,
take it out. But
yeah,
we've got to be used to work with each other, so he can do stuff really quick. I'm up in Mangawai, go from my phone and get to the shots. I'm sending all the shots to him in Auckland through the interweb, and he's cutting them together, and I trust that he's going to do what I would have done.
Hey, I think we're going to have to call it quits because we are having a few technical problems. What a bugger! But I would love to have a chat to you again because I'm really enjoying this. But yeah, we're just having a few technical problems, Leigh. So let's try and work something else out. All right, mate. thanks very much for your time, and we'll reschedule something again soon.
Again. Lost you again.
Yeah, no, I think we'll call it quits. I think we're having too many problems, but let's reschedule something because I really enjoyed it. It was a really great chat.
Just wait there. Let me try.
Okay, all right. We'll let him try something because he is bloody good. Quite interesting chatting to him actually, because he does come across as, I don't really know Leigh that well. I've met him probably on 1 or 2 occasions, but yeah, it's interesting because whether or not you call it an art form or not, I don't know, but he does. There's a lot of thinking time, I think, and real skill that goes into what he does. And he makes it look easy, but it's bloody hard to do what he's doing. I see something that's is that you back?
I can't see myself. I can see you. Can you see me or not?
Maybe this is, and look, everybody, this is not his new comedy. This is not his new black comedy where he's interviewed and everything goes wrong. I can't see you.
I've just got a black screen. Must be.
Well, we can hear you though.
Yeah, what the hell?
Should we carry on and see if we can do the interview without the picture? Maybe it might work.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So editing. Were you saying that you send all the stuff back to somebody in Auckland to edit? Is that what you said?
Well, at this time I do. Normally I'm in Auckland with the editor, but while I'm up here in lockdown, I'm trying to make a half-assed sort of TV show for TVNZ with an iPhone, with my family filming it, and I'll send all the raw footage to my editor, and he'll cut it all together and fire it back and forth to me, and then it'll hopefully go to air this Sunday. But it's pretty ambitious looking at what we're doing here.
Okay, so let's go back a step, because the funny thing is I did do a little bit of prep. And I looked at your profile on Wikipedia.
Oh yeah.
And as I read it, I thought, seriously, is this true? Is this really true, or is this just made up? And I thought, actually, no, it does sound legit. So you were born in Greymouth, and then you went to Peru.
Yeah, well, my father started off as a coal miner.
Yeah.
And ended up being a tunneler, so working in tunnels. Left the West Coast when I was really young.
Yes.
His first job overseas was in Hong Kong, actually. So I was about 2 years old there, 3 years old. Moved to Melbourne briefly. And then when I was about 6, we moved to Peru, high in the Andes. Actually high in the Mount Cook. So we're 13,000 feet up. And he was building a huge irrigation project, bringing water from the top of the Andes down to the desert. So I spent about 5 years living up there in the altitude in the middle of nowhere, total isolation, no idea about the All Blacks, no idea about New Zealand, no idea about any of that stuff, until education started to become a bit of a thing. About 11 or 12, got sent back to New Zealand to boarding school. And that's my first real experience with New Zealand. Obviously, my grandparents were here, still on the West Coast, and all that. So I felt a little bit of an outsider in many ways for the first few years.
Yes.
Didn't really know where I fitted in. But yeah, that's all true. That's all true.
And then you went to you worked in the Channel Tunnel.
Yep. That was obviously as a result of my father's work.
Yes.
That was in the early 90s. I left school and I was at the first couple of years of university in Canterbury. Making a real ass of myself. I was certainly of my degree, messing around, and got a call.
I find that hard to believe. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, carry on.
I got a call from him and said, look, we've got a job for you here on the Channel Tunnel. It's good money. Do you want to give it a go? And I was wasting time at university. I mean, put it this way, I was going to go back to university and pick up all the stuff I'd lost. and I would have done okay. But I thought, what the hell? I'll go over there. My brother went as well, and we worked on that for 2 or 3 years, which was great. A
Yes.
real, I mean, that was an interesting place. We were about the only Kiwis on it. I was probably the youngest at the time, about 19 when I started.
Yes.
And you got to imagine everyone on that job was either from Ireland, Wales, north of England, all the mining parts of UK. So the characters that we met on the job that you're working with day in, day out, the ones you could understand, were so funny. And there's a sense of humour which is brilliant. And I think that had a real effect on me, you know, that, whatever I ended up doing later on, in many ways, I've always thought in an international kind of way, not as in a commercial sense, but this thing that people keep going about, Kiwi humour and this humour, I don't think there is such, perhaps there is such a thing, but I think if something's funny, it's funny, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. I think everybody's got a similar humour. You can find it everywhere. Different styles of humour, dry humour, and whatever.
But do New Zealanders have more of that, self-deprecating kind of humour? Is that kind of a thing with New Zealand, or do you reckon that's everywhere around the world as well?
I think it could be. Perhaps it is, but I've certainly met people from overseas that have that.
Yeah.
As well. And you just think of them as, he's a real character, or he's a dry bastard, isn't he? And but yeah, perhaps there is that in New Zealand. And that's more of a case of, which I like about New Zealand, and if we want to talk about New Zealand humour, if there's such a thing,
yes,
it's not chasing punchlines all the time. I suppose that's the way of putting it. And I like that. I like situations or the overall vibe of something feeling funny, as opposed to, and then ka-ching, this happened, and then he said this. I mean, there's definitely room for that. But perhaps that's, maybe Kiwis are a bit more like that for sure.
Because I actually think two people in comedy that in New Zealand that really sum up that New Zealand kind of sense of humour is yourself and Jeremy Corbett. Jeremy's done, always sort of quite happy to be the fall guy and take the piss out of themselves. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I love Jeremy's humour, and you know him well. I've only done 7 days a few times, maybe half a dozen or something, and I find it quite stressful, to be honest, doing that sort of thing, but it was great. But while I'm on that show, I find myself watching Jeremy and actually being generally entertained, because I know how much has been prepped and how much he's prepped. Yeah. But I can also tell, perhaps being a bit on the inside on this sort of stuff, how much he hasn't, and how genuine, or even the stuff he has prepped, how genuine it comes across. That is him. And I've met him outside of the professional environment, and that's who he is. He's a genuinely funny person. To have them seeing a wedding, or to have doing something, off TV, he would still be very funny. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm so glad that he got that 7 days gig, because he had different sort of TV jobs leading up to that. And I think, I think the 7 days for him on TV in particular, he's very, very good on radio too. But I think that was his, it was just built for someone like Jeremy. Because we saw him as the way he actually is, He's just
totally. And I missed him on radio too, because when Jason and I were doing radio, it was a great combination. We came as that combination in a way. We were doing TV together, and it was a natural thing. So we didn't really adjust anything we did. And if people want us to change the radio show, I don't think we could have anyway. So then I started to think, who else could I possibly do radio with if I was forced into a studio, as they often do in that industry, and so-and-so, you're going to be with so-and-so for this year. I don't know how they can do that. JJ and JJ's going to go with Jason. JJ's going to go with Dom, and Dom's going to go with Finney, and Jason. It just becomes mind-boggling. But someone like Jeremy, I could imagine doing radio with, and he would be on the same page straight away. He's very good at setting up people's gags, which is very important. And delivering. It's very unselfish in that way. And Paul is another one. I love Paul's humour too. So I think those two together, I'd like to see back on radio, to be honest.
I had this this brief stint where, and I did this very badly, where I was the coach the so-called breakfast coach for Paul Ego, Kim Adamson, Jeremy Corbett. Did I mention Paul Ego? Yeah. So I did it for about 6 months. And, of course, as a PD or a coach, you're supposed to sit down and critique the show and give advice and, to make it better. And these guys would come off their show, which I absolutely loved. I was like a raving fan. I'd sit down with them and I'd piss myself laughing. I was, guys, that was so funny when you did that bit, and that was so bloody funny. And they'd go, "Oh, thanks, Shawnee. Is that it? Are we done?" I'd go, "Yeah, we're done." And off they went. So I only lasted 6 months. Was not a very good coach, but they were just naturally funny, all of them.
Oh, that's it. All you need to say, I mean, these radio shows, they try to dissect them afterwards. You should have said this and should have said that. Look, you had to say, look, faster or slower, too long, just make the voice breaks shorter. But you can't give people advice. The show's either working or it isn't.
Yeah. Hey, so tell me about,
I would know how to change it.
Tell me about this. Is this true that the rock band that you were in, Wild Turkey, with your brother Greg and Matt Johnson? So this is a great. I'm going to read this from Wikipedia because I think this is brilliant. I just pissed myself when I read this. The band suspended activities in 1994 after being briefly jailed in France for visa irregularities and then deported, returning to Christchurch. Is that true?
Yeah, and it was very much a junction and to what I'm doing now in a way. So just after Channel Tunnel, or I mean during school or whatever, I was always, my first love was to be a musician in a band.
Oh, really?
Rock and roll band. Oh, yeah. So that's what I was doing. And then I did the Channel Tunnel, obviously, university. And when I finished the tunnel, we came back here briefly and got together with Matt and my brother. So my brother was on the tunnel too, and formed a band. And we toured around New Zealand and, mainly South Island, to be honest. And it was a covers / originals band. I was writing the songs, and it was a 3-piece band. Living rock and roll, as we like to think, heading to Greymouth for gigs and all this sort of stuff. Only people in bands that will know what it's like. But in a way, that's where a lot of the so-called comedy started, because anyone in the band will know you're in a pub in Temuka, and there's 4 people in there. And none of them want you. None of them want you there. And there's always a 21st on down the road at the other pub, or a 30th down the road, and the publican's always apologizing, going, "Oh, sorry guys, so there's a 50th and a 21st on down the road. So would have been busy normally." All this sort of crap. So you end up taking the piss on the stage there. You start running dance competitions and giving away fictitious prizes to people and taking the piss out of each other in a very dry way, just to keep yourself entertained and and keep your ego from totally disappearing altogether. But then we said, bugger it, dream big. Let's head over to Scotland, where I'd spent a bit of time earlier, and we took the whole band over there. And the whole band, the whole band, saved up, took all our gear, and Edinburgh's a great place. You can play pretty much 5-6 nights a week. It's a very a great music scene. We got to the winter over there, and we heard that in France, a great place to go is the ski resorts. So we sort of stole someone else's gig somehow and went over there in the van, this old transit van. Got there. Long story short, we managed to get a residency, and after a lot of struggle, and then one night we ended up playing with Jimmy Barnes. So we heard he was in town. Oh yeah, we heard that he was at the resort there. I think at the time he was running away from tax problems in Aussie or something. He was basically hiding, keeping low. And this is pre-email and stuff, or text. So we somehow got hold of his hotel, rang him, left a message, said, "Look, we're doing a gig down the road." By this stage, we'd already had about 3 or 4 noise complaints, to the local police about our gigs. And we said, "Come on down." And he said, "Look, I probably won't make it. I've got a lot on," and blah, blah, blah. And I think we sent a bottle of bourbon and a copy of our CD to his hotel. And I really think he just felt so sorry for us. In the meantime, we told every Aussie and Kiwi within a sort of a 200-kilometre radius that Jimmy Barnes would be coming down, having no idea when he would. Sure enough, we're doing our gig and we're starting to crap ourselves because there's no sign of him, and all these people have showed up. And sure enough, halfway through, he walks in.
He did it.
Here we go. And we had a break, had a bit of a chat. Ken did a couple of numbers. Sure enough, he jumped up. I said, what do we do? What do we do? So we ended up just playing a whole lot of covers, Rolling Stones songs and stuff, all in the keys that I sang them, which are kind of weird, kind of lower. And he didn't really care. He didn't expect us to change keys or anything. He just screamed his head off and just went for it, belted everything out. We learned a couple of Cold Chisel songs, I think, just in case it did show up. We did them. And we were on such a high. He left the gig. We said, oh, great. We're real buzzing. Driving home in the van that night through the snow, you get pulled over by the local gendarmes, and they go, okay. The van was in a hell of a state, and there'd been a noise complaint, and we got chucked in jail that night. And then they asked us for all our sort of work permits and all this sort of stuff, which we didn't have a lot of, to be honest. And we made out we were paying for free, which we weren't. Anyway, long story short, they said, okay, that's it. Confiscated all our gear. And this the funny part was, we thought, shit, should we ring Jimmy Barnes and see if he could bail us out? We thought, no, he's been through enough. We'll flag that because it's his fault. And then they said, okay, we're going to deport you. But the way it works, one of you can stay out and arrange for all the gear to get shipped home and that sort of stuff. And that was my brother. And Matt and I ended up going to Lyon in France to prison for 11 or 12 days until they could actually find, because they find the cheapest fare they can, and it's got to link up with what they're doing. They can't keep you longer than 14, but they do it as long as they can. And this prison in Lyon was like, was one of the old places where the Gestapo, the Nazis, used to do all their tortures and stuff, and now it's an immigration prison. And it was, we got there and I was thinking, okay, well, this is going to be pretty full on. Matt, my mate, was pretty worried, going, oh shit, I'm going to jail. I said, don't worry, it'll just be like a immigration hotel, we'll be able to, be fine. Okay. Sure enough, we get there. It's just full on, Oh yeah, it was full on. There was hunger strikes going on there. Half the people were hunger striking because they didn't want to get sent back to Morocco or wherever they're heading back to. And then 2 Kiwis in the middle of all this, one phone in the middle, of course, that everyone's trying to use. And my girlfriend had just moved over 2 days earlier for her big OE to meet me. I'm in jail, yet to meet her parents. So Matt and I get deported 11 days later, which was a real debacle. We carried on for a little while doing gigs back in New Zealand, but I think that was the point. We said, you know what? I could probably do with a bit of a break from each other. So I decided, why not? I might try and get into TV kind of stuff. Long story short, I got into that. And to be honest, I think I was probably better at that than I was in a band anyway. In the band kind of
hey, everyone, to Leigh Hart. We had a few technical problems at the start of it. We can't see his wonderful face, but the audio seems to be going okay. So if you've got any questions, stick it in the comment section and I'll ask him. So tell me about I'm sorry, I've got to read this again from Wikipedia because it's just bloody hilarious. He moved to Auckland where he was working in television production for Greenstone Pictures when producer Mark Ellis recruited him for a vacant guest spot on a 1996 episode of Sports Cafe in which he appeared as an international snail trailer.
Snail trainer.
Snail trainer. So did you and Mark know each other quite well before the whole thing, did you? Before you got on Sports Cafe?
Not really, to be honest. That's kind of, in a way, how we met. I was in a flat in Auckland, and the Sports Cafe was obviously on, and they often had guests that would pull out, or they didn't really have any guests, and Mark would often recruit people. And he came around to my flat, and we had a mutual friend. So I didn't know Mark that well at that point. He was at Otago, I was at Canterbury, and he was a couple of years younger than me. And he was trying to get my flatmate to go on as a fake guest as this snail trainer, wearing a tracksuit, and this guy just wasn't keen at all. And he said, look, go down the bedroom there, Leigh might be keen. So he came down and we had a chat, and I said, oh, okay. And as I say, I was making serious TV for Greenstone at that time, researching documentaries and stuff, and hadn't really done a lot of on-screen stuff yet. So I said, okay, what the hell? Next thing I know, I'm in a car heading out to Sky Studios in those days, sitting next to Mark, trying to work out what we're going to say. And I'm holding a Tupperware container, wearing a beige brigade tracksuit, with a Tupperware container full of snails, about 6 snails in it that we'd got from the garden. Or he did. I can't remember getting the snails. Got there. I was nervous as hell. And there's no studio audience in those days at Sky.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Mark never told anyone else, like Lana or Rick, that I was fake. He said I was for real, kind of thing. So I had to play it totally straight. They didn't know who I was. Again, this is playing it straight and dry, and you can't laugh. It gives it away. So I'm on there nervous as hell, and next thing I'm getting interviewed by these people. The backstory is I'm off to the international snail racing champs in Vegas, and I'm taking it pretty seriously. Looks like I've got a whole lot of cocaine under my nose as a prop, and So anyway, we go through this routine, I suppose, and they're in disbelief, Ilana and stuff. And I think at one stage a snail may have got crushed by a shoe, as it was deemed to be a lame runner. So look, it was fairly out there, as I say, but there's no laughter when this is stuff that's happening because there's no studio audience. So I left the thing, and I got home. Either no one had watched the show that week, or I got no feedback from anyone. No one was going, oh, God, that was great. That was so funny. Or that was crap. Just nothing, which was worse. So I thought, oh, God, I've wrecked this. But it turns out it went down pretty well. So Rick got me back the next week to do a follow-up story. And then he found out that I worked in TV, and that a position came up and said, look, do you want to do a full-time field reporter kind of thing? I said, yep, why not? I'll worry about that later. And as I joined, that was the same day that Brent Spillane, a cameraman, joined to do, the camera field work and editing. So that's the guy I use to this day with all my other stuff. So we've had a relationship now for about 20 years.
Wow.
All from that.
Gee, I'll tell you what, the dynamics between everybody on that show was incredible. It was incredible, really, because that's pretty difficult to do. It's hard enough to have 2 people with a bit of chemistry, but however many, there 5 or 6 of you, Rick being the sort of the headmaster and keeping everybody in check, Mark Ellis being the naughty schoolboy, Lana always shocked. And, Graham Hill, even though he probably said less than anyone else, I thought he was brilliant in that. I thought he was just.
Oh, totally. You did right there. It's a very weird one, that dynamic, because it's a good example. You can't just bring a whole lot of people together randomly and expect it always to work. The show was never the same unless Rick was there. I mean, individually, each one of those people are quite replaceable, including myself, you'd say. But you needed Rick to be this schoolmaster guy under duress the whole time as the show's falling apart around him. You needed Mark to be unaware of where the cameras even are and just performing in a total performance sense. Mark doesn't change for TV at all. That's who he is, which is good. Lana, again, being a more professional TV element, trying to at least. And then, as you say, Graham, he did all those sports clips and stuff in addition to his panel stuff, which was, I would say, the start of all that style of TV in New Zealand, at least, anyway.
Yeah.
Those montages he'd put together and stuff, and it was really good. And whenever someone was away, it would always feel different.
Yeah. He's, and I'll tell you what, with Graham Hill, I've only met him once. He is bloody good on radio. He did this show on radio live, and it was like, you can just tell the amount of effort and research that went into his 4-hour show. It was as if he was spending a week on it, and just making sure that every moment was fantastic. He's a very clever guy.
He is, yeah. And we need more radio like that, I think. And it'd be good to see Graham doing a bit more, if you know what I mean. It's very, very, very good. But that was interesting times.
Was there ever talk of a reunion of that show, or is that my imagination?
Yeah, there has been. I think the last proper show was 2008, which was the Olympics. And I always thought if it's going to come back again, we had a chance last year with the World Cup, but I think TVNZ or something didn't want it. I think nowadays it probably would work better if there was an event happening, say the Olympics, if they eventually happen again, so you can hang it over an 8-week period or something, as opposed to I used to do 40 something shows a year. And I think there's still room for it. And perhaps bring some new blood in there as well.
Yeah.
But, yep. There's definitely talk, and I catch up with Rick a little bit, and he talks about it. But I think he said to me once, "Why don't you just start it up and do it?" And straight away, to the start of our conversation on this point, it wouldn't be the same without him.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
I like to be in the field guy that would just submit a story that he had no idea, which was the opposite to what he requested. He would say, "I sent Leigh out to catch up with the Crusaders, and let's see how that went." And next thing you know, I'm doing speed cooking in the kitchen, or I'm other end of the country. And that we made a point of, he never got to see the video before the show, kind of thing. So you needed all those little elements, and if he's keen to do it again, well, would probably do it.
Hey, so tell me about is it Wakachangi?
Yep.
Wakachangi. So how many, 8-9 years has that been in business?
Oh, shit. I hope not that long, but picking up around 5. But
so
there's a bit of a false start. I started about, say, 5 years ago. I wouldn't say as a joke, but kind of. I was in my office, TV production office, and we were between jobs or kind of bored, I think. And I think I said, I might start up a beer brand. And a couple of people in the office, there's only 2 people there, said, "Oh, that'd be a good laugh." And I said, I might call it Wakachangi after a sports cafe story. Well, I was down by the Waikato River, calling it the old Wakachangi, and this sort of stuff. And it was just a silly word.
Yes.
And I think I just did a Facebook post, and it kind of went ballistic in the days that would happen. And I said, "Oh, crap, I sort of felt committed now." So I just jumped on the phone and rang breweries and said, "Can you do a contract brew for me? Like, in other words, I'll just grab one of your beers and put Wakachangi on it, just as an experiment." Branding exercise. It went really well. And that was a Harrington's Brewery in Christchurch. But in a way, it went so well that it was becoming a bit of a problem. Supermarkets were starting to order it, and I was going, "Oh, shit," and we couldn't keep up. And we were trying to run this from an office in Auckland. Me and this production girl who's supposed to be making TV, she was chasing up lost pallets in Timaru, and it was getting scary. So I shut it down for a couple of years.
Oh, right. So it just grew a life of its own. You're like, "Shit, I can't."
Yeah, I got a little bit ominous, and it hadn't cost me any money yet, but it was going to. It was
right.
Pear-shaped. So I shut it down and had a bit of a breather, and I always felt a bit unfulfilled on that night. So I rebranded it, came up with a whole new packaging, and released that for people to see. And then Scott McCashin from McCashin's Brewery in Nelson, who make all Stoke beer and Rochdale cider, etc. And I've been chatting to him in the past anyway, in general, about stuff like this. And he said, "Look, let's get together." We had a chat, and they decided to come on as a partner as opposed to a brewer. So they make the beer, and I pretty much market it, but we're in it 50-50 now.
Yeah, right.
And it only works that way now. And as I say, it's as much their beer as it is mine now, and that's why it's working, because they're really good at making beer and the production side of it, and even the distribution. And you could argue I've got the easier part of the marketing. But no, it's going really well now. We're doing a lot in New Zealand in the supermarkets, and here in Australia as well. It's going really good. So.
Oh, really? Are you in the Aussie market now?
Yeah, we're in the supermarkets. At Woolworths over there, which is the BWS and Dan Murphy's in Aussie.
Yeah.
And that's selling just almost as much as in New Zealand at the moment. So the next step in that is we're going to bring out cans in a couple of months.
Yeah.
And maybe a range of chips, potato chips,
oh my God.
shortly as well. So that's going really good, and it's I really love that side of it. It's really fun, and a chance to I don't know. It's a different kind of release, working on that sort of stuff, ideas and stuff, than radio or TV, and something a little.
Yeah.
Although the comedy and the branding and the tone is similar, it's quite fun. I quite
Although
enjoy it.
business, I say this to people, business is still a form of creative thinking, isn't it? It's thinking
Yeah.
outside the square, trying different things. Something doesn't go quite right, so you pivot. That seems to be the
Totally.
bug at the moment. You pivot and go in another direction. So it is
Yeah.
still a form of creativity, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And as I say, with the branding side of it, we're coming up with concepts and labels and trying to keep comedy out there. And we're making marketing videos. It's an online kind of brand as far as marketing goes. So that's still all the same comedy that we do, anyway. But it, rightly said, like Scott may be bitching to me about a problem he's having at the brewery. Um, you know, nothing to do with my field really, but I enjoy from the outside in suggesting, well, maybe we could do this sort of thing, and he might suggest something to me on the creative side. You don't have to stay in your box, if you know what I mean.
No, that's right.
As long as you don't bug each other.
Hey, so tell me about Moonflix. When did you launch Moonflix?
Well, technically it's soft launched already. So at moonflix.co.nz is there now as a website.
Yeah.
And it looks like Netflix and it's free. And you can go in there and watch all the past Moon stuff, a lot of stuff we've done that people have never seen, videos for people, this kind of thing. And we're loading, there's such a backlog of content that we're sort of loading new stuff every, probably once a week, there's new stuff going on there.
Yeah.
So there's a Facebook page, but also the main thing is a website, moonflix, as I say, .co.nz. And we're hoping that people can go on there and just, especially look what we're going through at the moment. It's a great place. That's my dog barking back.
I know that dog barking, yeah.
Ricky, shush. And just surf through content and have a look. And there's long form stuff there. There's whole episodes of TV shows there. There's, you name it, it's all there.
So how many hours worth of content roughly do you think you've got on there?
On there at the moment, that'd be good. 15 hours, 20 hours or so.
Yeah. Wow.
But a lot. I mean, we've got most of the Moon TV series on there, and there was about 7 series of that. There's Mysterious Planet. There was 6 episodes of that. There's Bouger TV, which we did. There's Screaming Reels, the fishing show. So there's a lot of stuff. But as I say, there's a lot of snippet stuff that people would never have seen before.
Hey, because that Screaming Reels was pretty big in Australia, wasn't it? Like Channel 7, Sunday morning kind of thing, by memory.
Yeah, well, the story goes that Channel 7, they took it thinking it was a proper fishing show. And they
never
put it on.
You never put a fish in the whole series.
Yeah, they put it on after another fishing show, like the fishing hour on Saturday afternoon or something. And it doesn't. I mean, most people could see that this is a piss take, but again, the Aussies didn't quite pick up on it. And I'd always know when the show must have gone to air in Australia, because all of a sudden my Facebook and my certain contact pages would just light up with abuse from Australia, from all these Aussies going, "Get your ass off our screens, you loser! You can't get your fish. You muppets, get off!" And Jason and I would just have tears of laughter reading some of these comments of these irate Aussies who just couldn't handle the fact that we were taking the piss slightly out of fishing. What's the big deal? You take the piss out of cops, any other hobby or job, yet fishing seems to be a no-go for a lot of people. And but that was funny. I mean, most people enjoyed it, but it just goes to show, Have
you ever done much stand-up?
Stand-up?
Yeah.
Well, you and I have been in contact before about emceeing and stuff like this, right? And we've talked about that a lot, and we've done stuff. And for me, that's kind of stand-up. I've done a lot. A lot of emceeing and a lot of speaking, public speaking, speeches, that sort of stuff. But as you can probably hear, as my voice got worse, because it never used to be this bad, I kind of just lost confidence with a lot of that stuff. And I'll still do it on a case-by-case basis, if it feels right, if the room's the right ambience and the microphone's good. And because especially when there's an element of nerves, my voice will go even worse than this, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
If that could be possible.
What happened to your voice, if you don't mind?
Well, that's a very good question, because technically nothing. It just slowly started to get raspier to the point where I'd be on the phone with my father, and he'd always be saying, "Oh, did you have a big night last night?" This sort of stuff, and I was totally fine, and it actually started to annoy me. And often I had a big night, which annoyed me even more. No, but it got to the point, I said, "It's just getting weird." Then I'd go back and watch old footage of myself, which is self-indulgent, but just to hear if I sounded this bad. Because the problem with a bit like receding with your hair or something, other people don't really notice it if it's just over time. So people just assumed my voice always sounded like this, and it didn't. Trust me. So anyway, I went and saw a doctor, ear, nose, and throat guy. Chucked some cameras down there, and you couldn't really see too much wrong with it. But we had a couple of operations where they pumped Botox into the voice box, all sorts of different things, and it didn't really help. And I would stress about it because most conversations I'd have socially would always be about my voice as opposed to actually wanting, this kind of thing. So it got to the point I said, "I'll bugger it. I'll just have to deal with it." And once I accepted that, it actually got better. So I sort of researched a bit more, and I think it's something called muscle tension dysphonia, which is a condition where the voice box around your larynx will close up when you're speaking. So technically now I suppose I'm actually shouting. I don't think I am, but I think my voice is actually shouting to get out, but it doesn't hurt. I don't feel that way. And I hear myself back and I go, "That was a bit rough." But if I'm in a noisy room or at a party, I've got to go outside if I need to have a half-decent conversation with anyone. The next day, and that's another reason I was struggling to do TV and radio at the same time. I had to sort of choose one or the other because my voice would be stuffed at one end of the day. So now, I just sort of manage it now. But your first question, have I ever done stand-up? Other than, as I say, being on stage, technically doing comedy, in that sense I have, but I've never gone on stage as a stand-up comedian to go, okay, from 7:55 to 8, I'm going to be as funny as I can and make a whole lot of jokes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I take my hat off to people that do that.
Yeah.
But it's not me. It's not my. I'm a little bit more anti-comedy is probably a better word, which means not funny is probably best. No, I'm more into a situation. I'd rather come on stage as if I'm supposed to be doing a very good presentation, PowerPoint, and it turns to shit.
It turns to be
I'd rather sort of undermine something for comedy's sake as opposed to go on and do a series of gags. So my favorite stand-up comedians are ones that seem to be a little bit more coming across a little bit more like that. The closest I've came, I suppose, in Moon TV, the early series, I played a stand-up comedian at the Classic Comedy Bar, a character called Chico Row Party, who's basically the worst stand-up comedian you've ever seen. He stands up there and he just basically goes, "Hey, hey, how about that guy? Hey, what's all that shit?" He just keeps talking in comedian phrases, but never actually says anything funny. And that was inspired by a comedian I made the mistake of going down on a novice night and sitting in the front row.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible comedian. Young guy got up there and that's what he was doing. He just wasn't saying anything funny, but he was just saying, "Yeah, hey, how about that shit? Hey, anyone here from Hastings? Cool. And I just said, "My God, this is brilliant," and kind of stole it, I suppose. And he didn't realize that wasn't his act, And Chico Row Party. So you can see him on Moonflix if you want to see him doing stand-up. But that was important and that was in a proper audience who I had to sort of, while we were filming it, had to encourage them, please don't laugh at anything. It's got to be very dry. If you start laughing, it actually starts to feel almost funny, and it's supposed to be awkward. So,
So some of your favorite comedians, international comedians?
Yeah.
Are you a Ricky Gervais fan?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Definitely into him. Going way back, and this is more on the radio side of it, and the more the surreal stuff. Peter Cook. The Peter Cook and Dudley Moore stuff. If you listen to any of that raw stuff, that's pretty full on. Yeah. And I thought he was brilliant. And Peter Sellers, as far as a visual comedian, with the slapstick. And in America, of course, you know, I love all that new breed of guys, you know, the Will Ferrell and all the,
Yeah.
there's a whole sort of posse of them now, and they all seem to be on the same page. And I think American comedies evolved quite nicely, actually, with that lot and the movie sort of lot. Who else?
I actually watched Dudley Moore. A video popped up the other day of Dudley Moore and the late Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers was actually on a bass. He called it a bass or whatever it is.
Yeah, double bass, yeah.
And Dudley Moore is just these subtle eye movements of just, isn't this friggin' ridiculous? And it's just the funniest bloody thing, but very clever, you know, like musically brilliant, but just.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny Rogers, because he started off as a bass player in the band before his own career. So he was an accomplished bass player. And Dudley Moore, and you'll probably know this, in addition to his acting and his comedy and stuff, I think I could be exaggerating slightly here, but I don't know how the grading system works on this sort of stuff, but he, in his heyday, was supposed to be one of the top pianists in the world.
Yeah, I heard that.
Actually, like we're talking top 10 of all pianists in the world, no matter what. And that's what he was. So he was a genius in that sense.
So, hey, you've been very generous with your time. Sorry about the start. That was a bit of a stuff up technically. But, you've given me just about an hour of your time. So, hey, on behalf of all the Kiwis out there, keep making all that bloody great video that you do. It keeps us really entertained. You're a great guy, and I wish you nothing but the best for the rest of 2020.
Oh, cheers, Sean. And I'll tell you what am I doing up here? I'm making this show, which will be on Sunday on Duke. Duke channel called Leigh Hart's Isolation Lockdown or something, TV show. So that's on this Sunday, 8:30. And you can see how I've struggled up here to pull something together. But anyway, check that out, and it'll be a bit of fun. And keep safe, everybody out there, and keep well and stick to the rules, and we'll all get through this.
All right, mate. Thank you very much for your time, Leigh.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, buddy.